I'm so excited that you're here. My husband was calling this the Introverters. I thought that was cute. And I'll tell you, while people are answering the poll, I'm going to give you just a couple minutes why this. I mean, today's webinar is totally off the charts for me in many ways. First of all, I usually have them on Tuesdays. I usually give a lot of head notice. They're usually at noon. They're usually 30 minutes. I'm going a little bit longer today because I love this topic. And I'm actually going to launch a program at the end. And that means I'm just going to tell you about something I'm offering in case you're interested. Hope that's okay with you. You know, I don't advertise. And like a good introvert, I hate talking about myself. I hate selling. Hey, Sarah. Good to see you. I'm just kind of getting warmed up here. Anyway, on what day was it? March 8th, International Day of the Women. I gave a great, well-received talk called Introvert Hacks for Introverts at Women in Industry, which is sponsored by SWE, which is the Society of Women Engineers, which means there are a lot of introverts. I had a great, it was really short, like this, 45 minutes, and sharing the hacks, and it was really good. And then at the end, someone asked me, well, don't introverts have advantages, or what do we contribute? And I'm like, we do everything. We do all the work. So that's, and then this being National Introvert Week. So I kind of popped this up. All right, I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. And you can see that we have a little bit of flaming extrovert representation, and we have an mostly ambivert, social introvert, and then the quietest person is not on this webinar. All right, so that's the story of why I started offering this, and actually the fact that nobody knew it was National Introvert Week. Hey, Nancy. Is emblematic of the issue. I mean, I only found out about it a few days before it started, and it kind of reflects, because we're not good at spreading the word. We have lots of things that we are good at, but not spreading the word, getting people on board, sharing enthusiasm. That's not our strength. That doesn't mean we can't do it, but that's not what comes natural to us. And this is really cool, everybody, because the reason this is such a great opportunity is because I've had the privilege of coaching introverts and extroverts, because even though I talk a lot about introverts, but I also talk about getting visible, critical conversations. And so in the coaching work, you work very intimately. I mean, you talk about, you know, vulnerable problems, things you don't know how to handle. Otherwise, you wouldn't hire a coach, right? Because you would just know what to do. So, of course, I'm not revealing any secrets, but I can tell you that I've learned so much about how the extrovert brain works compared to the introvert brain in the office setting. And so that's what I'm sharing with you, so that you can, as those of you who are introverts, which are the majority, can leverage that. And I think you're going to have a lot of aha moments. And please, if you have any questions, you know, use the chat. There's also the Q&A, but this is interactive. I love questions. But I want you to know the reason I'm able to share this, and you're getting information you're not going to find, I don't think, anywhere else, is not only because I coach people and I talk intimately with them, but I started off as a very bad communicator, as a very traditional introvert that I was brought up, say what you mean what you say, right? And that's good advice, but it's not enough to succeed professionally, especially today. But think about it. If you were to ask Warren Buffett, who's he has definitely natural talent at investing, you say, you know, how do you pick out those stocks? And he'll say, oh, I just, you know, look at undervalued companies. Well, how do you do that? Or John Templeton, who's an investor from an earlier time, he was asked specifically, you know, what's your investing strategy? And he would say, well, I buy stocks low and sell them high. And then he would be asked, well, what does that mean? And he would say, well, I would buy them when the price is so low, it's not going to go down anymore. And then I sell it when the price is so high and it's not going to go any higher. But that doesn't help you if you're trying to invest. And just like if I were to sing, my husband's a professional musician, and if he says, Laura, you're out of tune, but if he doesn't tell me how to get in tune, I don't know what to do. So everybody, said, like, you ask a very charismatic person, how do you make friends so easily? How do you network so effortlessly? And they say, oh, I just love people, and I just love going to events, and I just talk to people. And you're like, well, first of all, the I love people kind of implies that if you're having trouble with this, you don't love people, which I know is not true, or at least on most days. And but what do you say? How do you get the conversation going? Those are things that I have had to actually study, and that's why I feel like I've gotten like the inside scoop on what's going on and how to so I can tell you how to take advantage of the introvert advantage, because it really is an advantage. So is everybody okay with my pace? I tend to go a little bit fast because I'm paranoid about not wasting anybody's time. So are we good to move on? I'm going to share my slides. If you have any comments, please do. I'm going to share my screen. I made this lovely, I told you I made lots of change. Where did it go? Hold on a second. I just had it pulled up. Another change that I made besides the day and the time and the messaging, I am using Google Slides instead of PowerPoint today, just to mix it up. I feel like it's more modern to do that. So you're getting to see my whole inside the brain at the Smithsonian Institute. And oh yeah, and so and I'll flip back between the slides and then the not slides. That's when I'll be able to see questions. All right, I know most of you know me, so bear with me. Not everybody does. Some people are new to my world, and I'm so excited to have you. So who am I? I founded Smithsonian Institute. Smithsonian rhymes with Smithsonian. My first business coach told me that was a terrible name, and she's probably right, but 10 years later, here we are. I have a bunch of degrees. I'm not going to go into them all, but one of them is a PhD in communication. I've always been obsessed with human potential and why some people achieve more than others, and intelligence is definitely not the thing that decides human performance. I got my start in the professional development world way back in the 90s when I was a facilitator in Spanish for the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it was a real joy for me. A couple of weeks ago, Sean Covey, who's the son of Stephen Covey, was in town, and I actually sat with him at breakfast. I have been invited, and I'm on the Forbes Council of Coaches. A lot of people have asked me, it's almost insulting. They're like, how did you get that? I'm like, and so if you want to know, the answer is they called me in September. I turned them down. And as I would tell my friends about it, people were like, are you crazy? You turned down Forbes? But I was like, I don't need Forbes. I just, I hate pretentiousness. But then I changed my mind and joined their council in November, and I love Introverts. I started this company to train people, not just introverts, but to improve communication, because it's just really bad most places. And there's so many little things you can do to make it better, which makes your life better. And these are the topics that I generally cover. Critical conversations, which is really the difficult conversations. And of course, I teach you how to get your way. Public speaking, media training, that's usually done with private coaching, networking, influence, emotional intelligence. Those are my topics. So I'm about to dive into the introvert advantage. I wanted you to know, from my point of view, educare means, which is, where we get the word education. It means to draw people out. I want you to be the judge of whether what I'm saying makes sense to you, whether you think it would work, whether you've seen it. I mean, I'm not Moses handing down the words from God. I am sharing research from communication studies, from psychology, from sports and experience, and what I've seen in my work in different industries. But you be the judge. You take what sounds good for you and leave the rest. And I'm going to start with myths of introverts, and then I'm going to go into like the strengths of each, and then I'm going to share like really what the advantages is. Like I call it the Pentagon of introvert advantage, and then I'm going to share my little program with you. All right, so these are the top myths which you might have seen me share on social media this year. Antisocial, that's introverts hate people. Not true. We just overdose on people. I mean, we overdose in the sense that it takes up our energy. I love parties. I love giving parties, but not every day. And through my life, if my job is demanding, like now I do so much coaching and so much training, which I just give so much that I need downtime after that. But when my kids were young and I spent more time at home, I wanted to go out more. This one about snobs just makes me laugh. I mean, I've heard so many people criticize other people for being snobs or too good. And in the reality, it's just that, you know, they're quiet. They don't feel comfortable talking, reaching out the way an extrovert was. Is not that we're snobs. Not effective leaders. I've heard that in different companies. It just makes my blood boil. And here's what the research shows, guys. So the charismatic, outgoing, extroverted leader is stronger with a very structured, regimented, like maybe a manufacturing where, you know, the workers are in a production line, that kind of boss. Introverts are better with knowledge workers. We're better at asking questions rather than telling people. We're better at managing higher IQ people. So you heard it here. We are not necessarily shy. You can be shy. I share the story that my mom, both my parents are introverts. My mom is an extreme introvert and shy. And my father is like, I am a social introvert. So it's a miracle I can speak at all. And then the whole thing about introverts not being able to sell. So that was something that I thought was going to really hold me back. But, you know, I just learned my way of selling. That's actually what I work with clients on. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I want you to share if you can think of another myth. Does anybody want to share another myth? Those 5 to me were the big 5 about being a snob, antisocial, shy, not being a good leader, and not being able to sell. And the reason why I'm drinking, I've had company this week. I've had my mother-in-law, who's from Venezuela, does not speak English. She's been spending a month with us. My mom was here just for a few days, and my son is home from graduate school. So that's why I didn't feel like putting on contacts. I'm just talking to my people with my cup of tea. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing then. I just wanted to know if anybody had anything to add on the topic of the myths. All right. Here we go. All right. So the truth about introverts, we enjoy quiet concentration, and maybe not 24/7. I mean, not all day, all the time, but yes, we like in quiet concentration. And that's why introverts are able to do research and coding and deep dive into any area of expertise, because we can just sit there and do that. If you have severe ADHD, you might not even be able to do that. And we have that. And I know that I really developed my ability to focus and concentrate when I was getting my doctorate, homeschooling some of my kids, and teaching at the university. I mean, that I learned so much concentration, and that was because of my introversion. All right, listen more than we talk. We are better listeners, which is good. That's an advantage, because what do you do when you listen? You learn. So you learn a lot. Sometimes though it can be tiring to listen to some people more than others. We also think before we speak. And this, what I'm going to show you, I'm going to get to the extrovert side. This is a huge difference because we assume that everybody is thinking before they speak, and that's not true. But sometimes we overthink, and then afterwards we think what we should have said, but that we're just more introspective. We are not rushed to risk. We take risks, but we think about it first. We may do an analysis. We're good at analysis, good at decision making, not just jumping into things. And notice they become leaders out of passion for what we do rather than to be the boss. You know, we're not motivated by the limelight that much. In fact, we're more motivated by meaning. And I have people, I mean, even today for me, it's hard to talk about myself. And then people that you think are extroverts are out there, they come to me to ask them how to do their elevator pitch because they hate talking about themselves. So I came up with this device called queen making or king making, where you talk about yourself by telling stories of how you've helped other people. So there's a little tip for you. Extrovert truths. Well, they enjoy multitasking, and I can't even with multitasking. I don't know about you, but look at these next two. I put them in bold. They seek the spotlight. So they don't have any trouble talking about themselves. They can talk about themselves, and they can sometimes tell very interesting stories about themselves. And it seems like nonstop on occasion. Of course, it's not that everybody's like that. And then this big thing, they think out loud. So in a meeting, in a company, any meeting, any day, any company, the extroverts are going to be the ones who dominate the conversation, all other things being equal. And then a lot of times, this is a big insight, guys, take note. Because the introverted person thinks before he or she speaks, he or she assumes that these people that are just jumping in have put a lot of thought into it. And they may be intimidated. They may feel dumb. I mean, I felt that way. I'm like, wow, how did they come up with all the answers so fast? How did their brains must just operate at a different speed? No, they're just thinking out loud. But it sounds like, to someone who thinks before they speak, it sounds like they have considered everything. And I won't say usually, but a lot of times people speak out with a lot of confidence. And it's sounding like everything's been clearly thought out when it has not necessarily been so. Extroverts are much more likely to take a risk, just to jump in. And when they feel tired, they want to go out to happy hour or call friends or have people over. That's just such a huge difference between the two types of people. So I'm going to flip back to the chat, but I want you to answer this question. I'm going to tell you my official answers, but I want to see if you have any insight at this point on how a company favors more noticeably an introvert or an extrovert. So I'm going to quit sharing, and I want you to please put some answers out there. What do you see? How do you think about meetings? Think about people who get noticed. Extroverts, yes, they get noticed more. Exactly. Anybody else have anything to add? Like, how do they get noticed more? Think about, well, we've gone over them. I'm going to share with just a minute. I'll give anybody. Extroverts speak over people. Oh, that is so true. And yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. This is supposed to be set up for everybody to see it, but I'm going to read it just in case. Introverts are typically viewed as workhorses, while extroverts as leaders. Yes, and I hate that. I think that is so untrue. Now, some introverts may love that. They don't want to be leaders, but I have enough rebel in me that I want to be an introvert leader. So I had to start my own company to do it. But I've learned extroverts for sure, easier for them to BS with others. Yes. Yes. It's hard for me to pretend that I care. Yeah, you don't care about their BS, but sometimes other, like the boss, the president, the board of directors can take that as that they, just building rapport. So all of those are great comments. All right, so I'm going to tell you what I have come up with on that topic of the companies. It's just so apparent to me that yes, extroverts are favored. So the meeting structure, I alluded to this briefly. The meeting structure is just speak up. And a lot of times you can have something ready to say, but somebody jumps in before you. You can have extroverts tend to interrupt more. I just find that so rude. And the thing is, if the person holding the meeting doesn't jump in and doesn't, put some order, then you're at a disadvantage, right? And that's why meetings tend to run too long. And that's why people don't speak up. And I remember so many meetings that I would not speak up because I didn't want to prolong this, amorphous discussion of issues that really didn't seem to be going anywhere. All right, the power proximity, and this goes with Mary Pat's comment about the BS. The more you hang out with someone, the more they like you. You've heard of familiarity breeds contempt, but research shows as long as the familiarity isn't too intimate, that it's actually the opposite is true, that the more time you spend with someone, the closer you feel to them and that you feel like you can trust them. So these people who are super chatty and other people, it goes to my third point, that they talk more, so they're better remembered. Like their name comes to mind first, their face comes to mind first. And there's like this perceived relationship, I should switch that up. The relationship is perceived as stronger, built on trust. And it's, you can think, well, that's kind of hard to go up against. But so pay attention here. There's science that we can leverage, that I've leveraged and I've taught my clients to. And it's this thing about unexpected and surprising. So the brain will hook. I've told you that, and I know you guys are all smart. You probably, it's not too hard to see how somebody that talks more sticks more in another person's brain. But if you do when you do things that are unexpected, then that trumps the effect of just talking more. If you surprise people or do things that are unexpected, and I'm not saying that is easy to do. It's hard, but you can't. That's kind of the angle that you'll be going with. You ask questions that people aren't expecting. You ask to meet with people maybe one-on-one that's not expected. You bring in unexpected analogies or metaphors or examples or projects or ideas. And so you're able to break the circuit of the domination of the meetings by certain people. And I'm going to go more into detail, but this is like the foundational scientific idea. I don't have time to share the studies with you, I don't think, but well, I'll share one. So it's like you wonder what social scientists, like, it seems like sometimes they have too much time on their hands, but so they did one study where the students would squirt water into the mouths of their partner. They squirt water like with a water gun, but every once in a while they would squirt like a punch. And they had MRI, or their brains were being measured. And when they got that unexpected pleasure, because they didn't know when they were going to get punched, then the brain just lit up like crazy. But if the person knew they were going to get punched, it was still pleasure, but it was not as strong of an impression. So that's kind of a basic, it's science to back up how you're going to outwit the system. And this is my masterpiece. I'm so excited. The Pentagon of Introvert Advantage. Okay, so there's 5 pillars to this, and I am going to have a prettier visual made. This I made by myself, and I'm not a graphic designer. So what did we start with? Number 1 is thought leadership. Now, thought leadership is not a big stretch because we think more, and we tend to be thought leaders no matter what our position is, precisely because we think more. But the trick is to get recognized for that. And I'm just going to give you like a little bit of ideas, because we don't have time to do, you know, an in-depth for everything, but you can certainly take these ideas and run with them. Like, how can you get out your thought leadership? But before you can do that, guys, listen to this. You have to see it in yourself. If you do not see yourself as a thought leader, nobody else is going to see that. And I know that you have ideas. You have ideas about what drives you crazy about your company or your industry, about where things are going. You have ideas to improve things. That is what thought leadership is. And you might have seen I write and talk about point of view. So you need to be known for certain points of view that you have thought out, that are relevant to your company or to your industry even. And one way, this is a low-hanging fruit, one way to really stand out in your company is to do something in your industry. Like speaking at a conference is comes to mind right away, or just attending a conference in your industry. But you have to see yourself as a thought leader, not only in your company, but in your industry. And that is the source for you to be a leader in that company or that industry. So the editorial surprises, I teach different ways of getting that point of view that you have out there, sometimes explicitly and sometimes implicitly. Like it could be like one of the things that I recommended at this talk, which surprises people, is to be the note taker in a meeting. I call it being a scribe. But if you do it the right way, not as someone as you're taking dictation. No. You're not taking dictation. You are driving the meeting as the note taker. You are asking for, like, are we ready? Are we done with this point? Is this the correct summary of this idea? Who shall I put down as the follow-up? Who is responsible for this? That's a way of exercising thought leadership in a surprising way by being the scribe. And there are other ways for you, like you might even start a blog or a newsletter or some kind of communication medium where you, no matter where you are in the organizational chart, get to express your points of view through editorial surprises. Like, by surprise, I mean not what's going on. You're innovating, you're coming up with different ways of communicating your point of view. So it's not only getting heard, it's getting heard in a different way. So I want, if you have any ideas of that, jot them down. I would like for you to share them. When I get through with this slide, I'll go back and see if anybody has had some aha moments. Says this is really good stuff. Arsenal of allies. Yeah, we all know that we need a strategic network. We probably mostly hate networking, or at least certain events or some events. But you can build up your arsenal of allies one-on-one. Just meeting with people, making introductions to people is another good way. Because if I introduce you to someone, me, Laura, that person's already been curated as a person of interest for you. Now, a lot of times people ask me, oh, how do I, if I go to an event, how do I know if somebody is the right person for me to talk to? And the answer is, I mean, if they're talking to you, they're the right person, because you never know. On the other hand, it can take a lot more time to meet people that are in a position to help you just by randomly talking to people in a meeting or in a networking event. But if you think about cultivating your arsenal of allies one-on-one, through recommendations, through referrals, through e-introductions, through even creating your own events, like a lunch. I offer a lunch. I don't pay for it. I invite a slew of women friends every month to a lunch. I'll invite maybe 20 and maybe 12 come. And I'm building those relationships very strong. We're having lunch together. And I can have them bring, like they bring people sometimes. So I'm getting to meet their friends. Again, it's curated introductions. So there's different ways to go about that, but you want to have that arsenal of allies, people who will speak up for you. And you want to have in that arsenal, you want to have some extroverts who will talk on your behalf, or they'll talk for you, or they'll be your, like your PR person in a company or in an industry. That can be done. Okay. All right. Knowledge capital, always learning, right? And that's what we're known for. Oh yes, we're the studious ones. We're the intellectual ones, but you have to find ways to use that, and, you know, making even jokes about your knowledge, or using your knowledge as the way to create metaphors. Anytime you can come up with a more creative way to express what you want to say, the better. And you have more likelihood of doing that because you're an introvert, a thoughtful person. Now I'll give you some examples of how I've done that. Some are borrowed, some I created. I mentioned being a dopamine dealer. What does that mean? A dopamine is a neurotransmitter that makes people feel good. What would a dopamine dealer do? A dopamine dealer would use people's names, give sincere praise, point out when they're doing something good. But isn't it a lot more memorable to say a dopamine dealer? Isn't it more memorable to say I'm building my arsenal of allies rather than my strategic network? So you have that knowledge up here, put a little creative twist on it so that you are associated with ideas in a more creative, entertaining way. And finally, the meta-G effect, which usually introverts like to study a little bit. Perhaps they like to read or listen to books on tape. That can create the meta-G effect. The meta-G effect is what happened in Italy, and I think it was the 1400s, when the Medici family would bring in artists to the churches with the composers, with the engineers, and it was just known for being, you know, that cross-pollination of expertise is what created the Renaissance. And you as an introvert, because you like to study things and you're curious and you can do a deep dive, you can bring the Medici effect wherever you are. So there's different ways of doing that. So that is my pentagon of introvert advantage. I want to see, does anybody have something to say on this, on those 5 points? Like, do you see how you could use your introversion to your advantage? See, I would love to see any comments. Or you can say this is, if you think it's ridiculous, you can say that too. I won't cry. I know that I can't please everybody. And that was kind of like a fire hose at you. So I want you to take a minute and process, because that's one thing that introverts need, is more time to process and think about, was there something that you could do or something that resonated with you from that pentagon? After this, I'm going to share an opportunity to deep dive into this Pentagon. That's my big innovation. Anybody? I'm a note taker scribe. It opened up topics in different areas. Yes, and note taker also is taking notes for yourself, I bet. And because maybe you're not the official note taker, but always you learn more, you know, even writing it by hand, it connects more to your brain than typing. Anybody else? The note taking is always good. And you know what? Even in a meeting, it shows that you're taking it seriously. Danielle, she's a thought leader. Yes, you are. Everybody here is a thought leader. For my benefit, yeah, I'm a paper person. Yes, but Danny, you have to see yourself as a thought leader. You have to see that where are your thoughts different? Like in the communication area, you're seeing this is Laura's contribution. This is completely new. Nobody's ever heard of the Pentagon of the Introvert Advantage. This is my contribution. And you have the same in your industry, in your company. Anybody else? I'm going to go share my program. Peggy, I'm always learning and overthinking things. Sometimes, oh, Peggy, you should be writing stuff down. I think that is the best way to, I mean, I'm not saying it will completely go away. Like even last night, I woke up 3 times because I was so excited about this webinar because I'm sharing stuff brand new. This Pentagon of Introvert Advantage, the whole Introvert Advantage is new, freshly developed content. I've been working like a crazy person the last 2 weeks on it. So, but writing it down in a notebook, like this is my journal. It's just it's a pretty one, but it's just what you see, crazy person stuff, list, ideas, and I go back and highlight it. That might help you sleep better and come up with better ideas. All right, so I'm going to go share my last little bit here. Thank you for your contributions. All right. Oh yes, one of the things I put in the copy about this webinar is what is your #1 priority, and it's energy management. Your energy. No, I mean, I know that we have an energy problem maybe in our country, but introverts, in order to leverage their advantage, they have to leverage their energy. They have to use their energy so that they have enough when they need it. So when you have those, you have to like think ahead about which meetings are more important, which events are more important. How can I build relationships, build my arsenal of allies one-on-one, or maybe inviting several people to lunch so you knock out several interactions at one time, like I'm doing with my lunches. But that's the thing that allows you to drive everything else. That means scheduling time or executive meetings with yourself, or it means getting to work early so you have time to yourself. Nobody's going to do this for you. Extroverts don't understand it. They've been told, but that has got to be your #1 priority, because that allows you to do all these things. Otherwise, you're too exhausted to just trying to act like an extrovert all the time is completely exhausting. I had one day a couple of years ago, where I was going to be a go-getter, and I had meetings from 7 in the morning, and then I got home like at 9 at night, and I had been at meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. I wasn't like sick, but I was sick at my stomach and just exhausted, and for 2 days I was not working at my full capacity, so I had not managed my energy well. So that is the thing you have to do proactively and not waiting for other people. All right, so I'm going to tell you very quickly, you've gotten an email that has this information about, this is brand new program. it's virtual. Okay, nobody has to meet anybody in person. It's all virtual. It's with webinars and meetings like this. It's called the Introvert Advantage Small Group Coaching Program, and where we can just deep dive into this pentagon to come up with specific strategies for your making your meetings better, more targeted, effective feedback up and down the food chain, and especially feedback that's editorial surprising, like not at the normal time for performance review, but asking, how can I do better? Or sharing with your reports, look, I want you to really shine on your next performance review. Let's, look at a plan. Any specific situations, you'll get to, direct coaching from me. And this is a third of the price of regular coaching. Yeah, we'll practice asking to build confidence. We'll come up with some networking strategies. And with all of this, you're going to enjoy your work. That's me with my punching gloves on, right? That was something out of my comfort zone. This is the only small group coaching program on the planet like this. It starts April 3rd. It's going to be a combination of my expertise plus the mastermind, because it's going to be just a small group, like 5 people. So we'll be sharing and cheering each other on. No boring, that's my slogan, don't be boring. And then it's a 5-week program, 5 calls, but I've scheduled something later in the year for accountability and just to catch up. And then you'll get content. It's for you. It's for you, the social introvert, ambivert. So we would have 5 sessions, but it would be like this, except you would be on too. And even though you don't have to be visible in the video, I recommend it for getting out of your comfort zone. And actually using video is something that I will teach you, building these relationships while being in your home office or your office. We're going to cover the 5 topics from the Pentagon of the Introvert Advantage, which I think it's funny, we all hear about AI, and this is IA. And then we would have a bonus session in August to catch up with people. Of course, you can email me during these 5 weeks. I've got worksheets and exercises. And for everybody that signs up by Saturday, I'm not one of these call now and wait, there's more, but I've got 3 short video classes I want to send you on storytelling. So good. Impressing others, which goes into that science of, the surprise, and then the elevator pitch starts. This is the price. It's $497. And do remember that, your company should pay for this. And if the company doesn't, it's a non-reimbursed business expense. If you know of somebody who would benefit from this, you can both sign up for $397. You can make 2 payments. And, this is not a used car salesman pitch, even though, it's hard for me to also sell, but I am so lucky that my company's been growing. I am going to be able to raise my coaching prices. If you want private coaching, I offer a 3-month, 6 calls. If you're in Charleston, some of them can be face-to-face for $1,500. So that's also an option. But I created this small group for a third of that. So that is what I have to say. And now I'm open to any kind of questions that you have. Questions, comments? Anybody? 1:45, good time management there. I'll be happy to stay if anyone has questions. You've got an email from me in your email box that has the details of the program. You'll get a copy of the recording. Good example. Oh, okay. Well, my Mark, what is his last name? Mark Jacobs, a designer. He is a good, several people in the fashion business, because I love fashion, are introverts because they have to do the deep dive, but they also have to lead their company. Obama is an introvert. Compare him with Bill Clinton is a flaming extrovert. Obama is an introvert. I put a list of them. oh, what's her name? The French lieutenant woman, Meryl Streep. She's an introvert. Bill Gates is an introvert. Elon Musk is an introvert. Thank you, Ted. Elon Musk is an INTJ. I meant to ask, is anybody an INTJ from the Myers-Briggs? That's something that we'll talk about in our small group coaching. INTJs, yes. Elon Musk. Do I have any fun favorite TED Talks we could view? Well, I don't. Look up Susan. Oh yeah, Susan Cain's. Let me write it in here. I don't see it. Susan. She did a TED Talk on. She's the one who made introversion socially acceptable a couple of years ago. She wrote something like "The Power of Quiet in a World That Can't Stop Talking." So that's a good one. If you want to do like just engaging with people, Vanessa Van Edwards is also fun. Hers is called Captivate. And I've learned from her. Anyone else got questions? Speak up. That's my new saying. Speak up and shine on. Because you don't have to, that's the thing, if you manage your energy, you don't have to talk all the time, but you speak at have the right thing to say at the right moment because you've thought it out. It's just gonna carry you further. You're gonna just get more bang for your words. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much for being on this with me. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to link and to connect with fellow introverts. If you have any other questions you think of later, email me. I'll answer either with an email or sometimes I told you about using video. I'm using video to answer when I don't want to write out a nuanced, complicated email. I'll just shoot you a video. Oh, thank you, Mary Pat. Good to see you from Cola. Hope things are going well for you. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks so much. Oh, INFP. Oh, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. So INFP, so you're more feeling than I am, and you have room for gray. I'm told that us J's see everything as black and white, but I see it as we get stuff done. All right. Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to sign off now. Have a good day. Bye-bye.